Okay. And we are operational now that the infinite mirror has completed itself. Hello, people. Uh, One thing I always like to do near the end of the year is to prepare a giant list of all the films that I'm interested in that are going to come out or may be coming out in the following year. I basically just do that to get myself hyped and start planning my schedule. And also just because I love going to movies so much, it might be my favorite thing to do. It's certainly up there. Um, so I thought this year, instead of just hoarding this giant list for myself, that I would take you through said list in the form of a PowerPoint presentation. Now, I will say each of these months is accompanied by graphics that were selected by the PowerPoint design tool. Okay, so none of these are my fault. All right, and so we are going to start with the movies that have firm release dates. Of course, these release dates could always change, but these are the films that are associated with specific release dates next year at this moment. We are starting with January. There are four films in January that I am interested in. And as you can see, the graphic that PowerPoint has selected is this flying whale, which appears to be. See, when I look at this photo, what I get from it is that they're kind of using the whale as a balloon, right? It's kind of like a hot air balloon. And you can just imagine this plane right here is just like the basket on the balloon. Now that's kind of deceptive because they're in a plane. The plane should be able to fly of its own volition. But if you look here, this propeller doesn't appear to be operational, and you can see this kid here like kind of struggling with the controls, being like, "There's nothing I can do. It won't. The engine won't turn." Or. So I think all that's preventing these children from falling to their doom is this helpful flying whale monster. So that's how I interpret it. But it's art, so no interpretation is wrong, really. So as far as the movies in January, the first one I'm looking forward to that's coming out very soon is Lee Winnell's Wolfman. I am a fan of Lee Winnell's recent directorial work, like Upgrade and The Invisible Man, and so I'm very excited to see what he does with the Wolfman. The next one is Flight Risk by Mel Gibson, coming out on the 24th. This movie looks kind of dumb, but it looks like fun dumb. It's that movie where Mark Wahlberg has like a bald spot and he's trying to murder Topher Grace. I think it could be fun. It looks like the whole thing takes place inside a tiny airplane, so that's kind of interesting. Um, then we have Presence by Steven Soderbergh. This is actually the first of two Soderbergh films that are confirmed for next year. And this movie looks interesting. It's a ghost story, but it's from the point of view of the ghosts. And so the camera, you're like looking at everything from the ghost's point of view. So that seems like it could be neat. Or it could be a gimmick, but either way, I'm curious to find out. And then finally, we have Companion by Drew Hancock on the 31st. And this just looks like it looks like an interesting trailer, kind of mysterious, and it has one of the actresses in it from Heretic, who's a very good actress, and it's just the trailer is a little deceptive because it says like from the people who brought you Barbarian, which was a really fun horror movie a couple of years ago, but it's not really the guy who directed or wrote Barbarian. It's like one, I believe it was one of the producers. It's like it's produced by the same people who produced Barbarian, so it is technically from the team that made Barbarian, but it's not. It's from what I understand, it's a first time director. But I mean, if those guys were involved in making Barbarian, they probably have pretty good taste. So I think it's probably going to be still worth checking out. All right, February. This is the most disappointing month in terms of graphics because all these graphics pretty much make sense. Um, on This says the 2nd of July for some reason. that's not PowerPoint did that shit. I didn't do that. See, it's formatted differently and all. What is going on? But anyway, on the 2nd of February, we're getting this movie Love Hurts. There is a trailer out for this and looks okay. But I mean, I'll really take any excuse to see Ki Hoi Kwan, kick people's ass. I really enjoyed that in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I'm excited to have another opportunity to experience that. On the 14th, we're getting Captain America: Brave New World, the new Anthony Mackie version of Captain America. It looks fun. The 14th of February, we have a trailer for this as well, The Gorge by Scott Derrickson. It's basically Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy, and they're on either side of this gorge, and they're supposed to be protecting us all from something that's going to be in this gorge, and they don't really know what it is, but they're both like snipers. And when they experience this thing, it's kind of like you'll know it when it happens, I guess. They're supposed to deal with it, and the trailer, it looks all right. It looks all right. It's an interesting enough premise. I would say if you haven't seen the trailer, maybe try to avoid it because it seems like it does give away a lot. But yeah, I'm mildly interested. Scott Derrickson isn't like one of my favorite directors or anything, but he does some pretty decent stuff. Doctor Strange and the Black Phone were decent enough movies. So I'm not sure I'm gonna see it, but I'll keep an eye on it. Then on the 21st of February, we're getting a movie I kind of want to see, which is Cleaner by Martin Campbell, just because Martin Campbell is a great action movie director. He did GoldenEye, he did Casino Royale, and he did a movie I really liked a few years ago called The Protege that I didn't hear anybody talk about, but I thought it was really fun. So Martin Campbell usually makes really solid stuff, so I might check that out just for him. But then on the 21st of February, we're getting one of my most anticipated movies of the year, which is The Monkey from Osgood Perkins, who gave us Longlegs this year, which was a fantastic movie. And The Monkey, it's based on a Stephen King short story. It looks like a very dark, violent comedy horror film, and it looks really fun. And then on the 28th of February, we have The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. Now, I was interested in this just because I am like a fan of the old Looney Tunes shorts, particularly like Duck Dodgers. And believe it or not, I mean, all of the other Looney Tunes movies that have gotten theatrical releases, like Looney Tunes Back in Action, the Space Jam movies, those were all animation live action hybrids. So this is the first all animated Looney Tunes movie to ever get a theatrical release. Unfortunately, they put out a trailer for this a little while ago, and I didn't think it looked very good. The humor didn't look very Looney Tunesy to me. It looked like, much less clever than the old shorts used to be. Much less, it's just a different sense of humor. So I'm a little concerned. I might honestly wait until it's on streaming. I don't know if this is a go to the theater and see it kind of movie, but once again, gonna keep an eye on it. Okay, so March, PowerPoint has selected sheet music that's kind of in the shape of a heart. I don't know why. On the 7th of March, we are getting Sinners, the new movie by Ryan Coogler, who gave us the Black Panther movies, the first couple of Creed movies, or I think he just did the first Creed movie, actually. Actually, I'm not sure on that. I don't know. But yeah, this is reuniting him and Michael B. Jordan, and all we know is Michael B. Jordan is going to be killing a bunch of vampires, which I'm in. Then we have Black Bag, the second film by Steven Soderbergh. So not only is he coming out with two movies next year, they're coming out like really close together, which is interesting. But yeah, there's a trailer out for this. I think it looks fun. It's like an espionage movie where like a husband and wife are, kind of like the husband, might have to take the wife out because she might be like a double agent or something. I don't know. It looks like it could be entertaining. And then we got the new movie by the Russo brothers, The Electric State. Honestly, a trailer came out for this too, but I remember very little about it. It just didn't look very interesting to me. It does have a pretty cool cast, though. It's interesting because the Russos, did such wonderful work with Marvel, but everything they've done outside of Marvel hasn't really landed. So I don't know how I feel about this one, but once again, gonna keep it in my periphery. Alto Knights by Barry Levinson is interesting to me because last year Robert De Niro gave one of his best performances ever, in my opinion, in Killers of the Flower Moon. I never thought that I would see a De Niro performance of that caliber in a theater in a new film. So that really got me excited to be like, oh, he still has the potential to operate at that level. And in Alto Knights, he's playing two different characters. He's playing two warring mob bosses. So that's an opportunity to do some serious fucking acting and really get away from like his, Robert De Niro thing, like his Robert De Niro face he always makes and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's an excuse for him to do some good character work, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. And then on the 21st as well, we got Magazine Dreams, which is a film that was supposed to come out a couple years ago, starring Jonathan Majors, and it was the year that Jonathan Majors was really blowing up. He was in Creed 3, and he was playing Kang in Ant-Man, and Magazine Dreams was a film that played at a bunch of film festivals, and people were saying that he was so great in this film that it was probably going to get him an Oscar nomination, if not a win. Then all that awful stuff about him came out, and he lost his lawsuit, and the movie got shelved. So, I am curious to check it out, because we got to remember, even though Jonathan Majors disappointedly turned out to apparently be not a great guy, a lot of people work on a movie, you know, and they shouldn't all lose the opportunity to have their hard work seen just because of one guy's shitty behavior. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I've heard it's a really good film, and I'm glad he finally got it out there, and that Elijah Bynum's film just didn't get permanently shelved. I think that would have been a real shame. All right, April. PowerPoint has selected this cute latte art teddy bear over here for some reason. We got on the 18th Mickey 17 by Bong Joon-ho. This was a movie that was supposed to come out this year, I believe, but it kept getting delayed, and now we're finally going to get to see it. There's been a trailer for this out for forever, and it looks really fun. It's like Robert Pattinson plays a future man who he signs up to get cloned, and they kill his clones over and over and over so that they can learn about various scenarios and learn how to keep people safe who aren't clones. And eventually him and one of his other clones, are both alive at the same time, and they're only supposed to be one Robert Pattinson alive at any one time, so this creates a kerfuffle. And I think it looks like a really fun film. I'm really looking forward to checking it out. So far, Bong Joon-ho's American films haven't worked for me as well as his Korean films, but, they're still enjoyable movies. So, I would be surprised if this isn't a good time. We've also got The Accountant 2 on the 25th. I don't know if I'm going to see this. I did like the first Accountant. I thought it was a pretty, interesting little thriller, and one of Affleck's more interesting characters. But I didn't necessarily need a second one, and it's strange that I think that first one came out in 2016, so it's very strange that we're getting a sequel a decade later. I don't know what's up with that, but keep an eye on it. And then the other one on the 25th that I don't even know if I really want to see is the Until Dawn uh, adaptation by David F. Sandberg, who's the guy who did Lights Out. He's a director who I haven't loved his stuff, but he has potential, I think. And this is really only on here because I like the game. I really enjoyed Until Dawn, and I would be curious to see what they do with it. It is a very cinematic game. You're basically playing a movie, just making choices and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I hope they do justice to it, and I might wait to see what some of the reaction is, so that I don't get my heart broken as a fan of the property. But we'll see. All right, May, they have selected this baseball image here. I think this says that this baseball glove is made out of what, top grain cowhide, I do believe that says, and it looks like this guy is trying to strike this guy out as this guy is sliding into the base. Anyway, on the second we got Thunderbolts, which is another new Marvel movie where all of these characters like Yelena and Red Guardian and what's his name, Winter Soldier, and and Ghost to whatever, and all these people are coming together to form this like anti-hero thing. Saying it out loud, it kind of sounds like Suicide Squad, but it might be fun. It looks fun. Now we've got Hurry Up Tomorrow by Trey Edward Schultz on the 16th, which I'm curious about because it's a Trey Edward Schultz movie. I think he's a cool filmmaker. But I am not, I'm cautious because this is a Weekend movie. This is a movie that the Weekend is making with Trey Edward Schultz, like as a cross in promotion with his album. Apparently, it's like a concept album, as I think a lot of Weekend albums are. And this is like telling the story, of the album, in a different medium, and probably filling in some stuff that the album can't delve into. So yeah, I don't know what to think about that, but I'm just gonna keep an eye on it because I like Trey Edward Schultz. Uh, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I'm a big fan of the Mission Impossible movies. Don't really have to explain that one. On the 23rd. Lilo and Stitch. I'm usually not a fan of these Disney live action remakes, and you put quotes on that because obviously most of it is computer generated, so the line between, live action and animation is very, very fine there. But the reason I have this on here is twofold. I mean, number one, I think Lilo and Stitch came out in 2002, and literally every time I see Stitch anywhere, anytime I see, any Stitch related merchandise or something, my heart just goes back to how I felt that day seeing that movie in theaters, which was like, I really want a Stitch. Stitch is super cute. Why can't I have a Stitch? You know? So I love that little guy. And also, this is directed by Dean Fleischer Camp, who directed a great movie a couple of years ago, which was a blend of live action and stop motion called Marcel the Shell with shoes on, which was like I think in my top three movies of that year. So for those reasons, I'm keeping an eye on the Lilo and Stitch remake. Karate Kid Legends is probably, I don't think I'm gonna see that in theaters, but I might check it out eventually. It just, the premise interests me that they're shoving these two universes together, you know, because there was the Ralph Macchio Karate Kid stuff, and then there was this remake with Jackie Chan, where they weren't even doing karate; they were doing kung fu, and they should have called it the Kung Fu Kid because that would have been cool. That would have separated it from the original while still tying it into the brand. But they didn't do that. They just called it the Karate Kid, even though there's no karate in it. But yeah, now they are shoving these two worlds that were never meant to be combined together, and that's kind of interesting in a weird way. And also, I just like Jackie Chan, and I like when he gets an opportunity to act in a more kind of dramatic way. Like say what you will about that Karate Kid remake, it's It's not great, but Jackie Chan is good in that movie. He's quite good. So yeah, and Ralph Macchio. Ralph Macchio is a good actor too, and he doesn't get a ton of work. So yeah, I'm kind of curious about it. And then also on the 30th, the same day Karate Kid Legends is coming out, is one of the films that I am most excited about for next year, which is The Life of Chuck by Mike Flanagan. So this is a director who's done tons of good Stephen King adaptations in the past. He did what? He did Gerald's Game. He did Doctor Sleep. Uh, I think he did another one too. I don't know. My brain is dying, but he's just a super talented guy, Mike Flanagan. And I haven't read this particular short story, but I've heard it's a beautiful story. And this movie actually, well, it's a Stephen King story. I don't even know if I said that. And this movie played in some film festivals last year, and it got really good notices. It's supposed to be like a really gorgeous film, so I am very curious to check that out. All right, June is another one where they gave me just some little graphics, but these are better. These are better. First of all, we have Ballerina. Which is represented by a cat for some reason, and that is coming out on the 6th of June. And this is a John Wick spin-off starring Ana de Armas. And John Wick is in it, but he has kind of a more supporting role. And this film, I believe, takes place in between John Wick 3 and John Wick 4. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this because I'm a John Wick fan, and Ana de Armas's little part in No Time to Die got me really hyped to see an entire action movie with her in the lead. I think she's going to totally kill it. And my only reservation about the movie is that it's directed by Len Weissman, who doesn't really make movies I like. He's most well known for making the Underworld movies. He also made Die Hard 4, which nobody really liked until Die Hard 5 came out, and then everybody was like, Die Hard 4 wasn't that bad. But yeah, I mean, the trailer for this came out, and it looks good. It looks like it belongs in that universe. So I'm excited to see the first, in my opinion, really, really good Len Wiseman film. I'm looking forward to it. Then we have Elio by Pixar. I'm still a Pixar fan. Everybody's talking about how Pixar has fallen off. And what's weird is that I agree to a point. Like, the Pixar movies that have been in theaters have been very hit or miss. So I thought Inside Out 2 last year was really good. But the ones that they've put on streaming recently, like Luca and Turning Red, have been like some of my favorites. I've loved those films. So I'll always check out a Pixar movie. I think they still have a pretty decent batting average. I'm not ready to give up on them yet. And PowerPoint has chosen to represent Elio with a cupcake for some reason. Now, 28 years later, not days, that was the first one. They have chosen to represent with champagne glasses, which I kind of get. It's like a anniversary, 28-year anniversary, I guess. But yeah, 28 years later is the follow-up to 28 Days Later, which was directed by Danny Boyle, and 28 Weeks Later, which was not directed by Danny Boyle. Now he's coming back to the franchise. Cillian Murphy is coming back to the franchise, though not in the lead role. He's got like this mysterious side role. And there is a trailer out for this, and I think it looks really good. It looks like they're taking it a lot farther than they did in 28 Weeks Later, because 28 Days Later, goddamn this fucking naming convention. But 28 years have passed, so the societal implications of what was happening in the first movie, that stuff has had a lot more time to impact the world. So we're going to see like a radical shift in the way people are living in this. And it looks very interesting. Now, I know there is another 28 Days Later film either coming out next year or the year after, which I guess is like kind of a spin-off. And that makes me worried. I kind of don't like this Hollywood thing where everything has to be a franchise now, so I would be more excited about this if there wasn't a spin-off movie like already planned and already filming, but I'll keep an open mind about it. And even if I end up being annoyed by the spin-off, this is still directed by Danny Boyle. He's a really good director, and I'll still probably like this movie a lot. Um, and it's also written by Alex Garland, who's also coming back from the first one. Great writer. And then we have Mithrigan 2 on the 27th, which I was a fan of the first Mithrigan. Um, I thought it was a really fun and ridiculous movie. And I came up with a Mithrigan 2 and actually Mithrigan 3 plot line in my head, and I wrote it all down. Maybe I should do a video about that where I go through what my ideal Mithrigan 2 and 3 would be. Because, I used to be afraid of doing YouTube, so, I used to write everything down. And getting people to read something is even harder than getting them to watch a video. So, I was just like, it's not worth the effort. But, now that I'm willing to show my hideous face on the camera there, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it. All right, July, kind of boring. They've decided to represent it with a Brontosaurus, which makes sense because the first movie on here is Jurassic World Rebirth on the second, and I put that on here very grudgingly. I'm more than ready for the Jurassic World movies to be over. I thought they were over, but if maybe they're breaking from the way things used to be. I think the characters who were previously in those movies aren't in this movie. It kind of seems like a reboot. It's a little soon for a reboot, but I think that's what they're going for. So, if they're going to do the concept better, I'm going to try to keep an open mind about it and at least wait till I see a trailer. Then we've got an untitled Trey Parker film. Trey Parker, as you probably know, the co-creator of South Park. And yeah, all we really know about this movie is that it stars Kendrick Lamar, which is interesting. I am interested to see what a Trey Parker Kendrick Lamar movie looks like. I can't imagine it. I think Trey Parker was like involved in like that music video for The Heart Part 5 where Kendrick's face was like transforming into all of those other people. I think he helped create that. But I don't know what they're doing as far as like a narrative film. It's interesting. Then we have Superman by James Gunn, which there's a lot riding on. This is supposed to be the start of the new DC universe, so we'll see how that goes. James Gunn is very reliable in these types of movies, so I think we'll be happy. I'm looking forward to seeing Crypto. I'm hyped for Crypto, Superdog. And then we have Fantastic Four Last Steps on the 25th, which is my most anticipated Marvel movie of next year. Very excited for that. August, they've chosen to represent with a rook from chess for some reason. And the three here, I don't know why these are bolded. Oh, but it keeps going. I don't know. It has a mind of its own. The first one on here is The Naked Gun, which, The Naked Gun, the original one with Leslie Nielsen, is one of my favorite comedies ever. So ordinarily, I would be against remaking a movie that good. But a couple things about it interest me. Liam Neeson is playing Frank Drebin, and I do think Liam Neeson is actually really funny. He hasn't gotten that much opportunity to show off his comedic abilities, but every time I've seen him do comedy, like he really kills it. So I think that's good casting, and it's directed by Akiva Schaffer, from The Lonely Island, who did Hot Rod and stuff. So I like his work too. So yeah, I'm curious about it. We'll see. Now, this is one of my most anticipated movies of the year, certainly. Anytime Paul Thomas Anderson puts out a new movie. And very little is known about this movie, beside the fact we do have some of the cast, which I wrote down here so I would remember. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn. He's worked with Benicio and Sean before, but I don't think he's never worked with Leo before. But it's, people were saying, that this was going to be another adaptation of another Pynchon adaptation because he did Inherent Vice. But that's not what this that doesn't appear to be what this is. But people don't really know what this is. But we have a working title at least. The working title is The Battle of Bacton Cross. So I don't know what that is. A very mysterious film, and I am very excited to check it out. Hey, I was talking too long, so take two. Is this fan too loud? I'm gonna turn it off. All right. Well, we were on August, and the last film I have for August is Nobody 2, which Nobody, if you didn't know, is that movie where Bob Odenkirk just beats a bunch of people up, and I really enjoyed the first Nobody. I thought it was a fun movie, so I'd be happy to watch any more Nobodies they want to make. Now September, um, they've represented this one with this admittedly kind of a cult looking group of hands all joining together in communion of some type, probably satanic in nature. But this is Conjuring 4, The Conjuring Last Rites, and I am generally a fan of the Conjuring series, Conjuring 1 and 2. And I really like the way that Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson play those roles. They're super likable characters. But my reservation about this is that it's directed by the same guy who directed The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, or whatever it was called. And that wasn't very good. So I don't know why they gave him another Conjuring movie, but yeah, that has me a little worried. But we'll see. This is supposed to be the final one, hence why it's called The Last Rites. So we'll see. And then on the 26th, we've got The Bride! Exclamation point by Maggie Gyllenhaal, who is mostly known as an actress, but she did break into filmmaking a couple years ago with this movie, The Lost Daughter, which got really good reviews, and it was a good movie. I wasn't a huge fan of it just because I thought it was a massive bummer, but it was pretty good. And this is her taking on Bride of Frankenstein, which is one of my favorite movies ever, the James Whale film. So I'm curious to see her take on it. Jessie Buckley is playing the bride, and she's a really good actress. So yeah, I'm curious to see what they come up with. And that's coming out on the 26th. All right, October, they've chosen to represent what this looks like: an organ and a microphone for some reason. The first one is Roof Man by Derek Cianfrance, which is coming out on the 3rd. And this is like kind of like a thriller type of movie, kind of, it looks like kind of in the vein of his previous film, The Place Beyond the Pines, which I very much enjoyed. So, yeah, I don't think I even saw his last movie in theaters. Like, what was the Light Between Oceans? I think it was. Yeah, it looked kind of boring. But this looks like a return to the kind of, they kind of a more exciting kind of visceral experience like Place Beyond the Pines was. So, gonna check it out. And now we have our second Scott Derrickson film, The Black Phone 2. And I mostly want to see The Black Phone 2 because I have no idea how they're going to make a sequel to it. Like, no spoilers if you haven't seen The Black Phone, but it is not exactly crying out for a sequel. So I'm very interested to see how they pull that off. The next one is Good Fortune by Aziz Ansari. And I really liked Aziz's TV show, Master of None. So I'm curious to see what he does with a film. His first movie, Being Mortal, was supposed to come out last year, but it got put on hold because Bill Murray. There were like some allegations against him made by a member of the crew, and the whole film got shut down. So that movie is just he might reboot that down the line and rewrite it. But for now, he's pivoted, and this is going to be his debut film, Good Fortune. So we'll see how that goes. Mortal Kombat 2. This is mostly on here just because I grew up with the video games. I'm nostalgic for those characters, and I'm nostalgic for the original Mortal Kombat action movie from the 90s and its theme song, which is like the best theme song ever. So yeah, I mean, this is directed by the same guy who made the first in the Mortal Kombat reboot series, this latest series, which I thought was fine. It wasn't great, but this one brings back more of the classic characters. Maybe doesn't focus so much on this new character who they created for some reason who had like no personality. So I'll give it a watch. Probably on streaming, but I'll give it a watch. November starts off with Predator Badlands by Dan Trachtenberg. So this is the follow up to Prey, which was kind of Dan Trachtenberg's take on the Predator franchise, where it was, going way back with these Native American characters who were being stalked by the Predator, and I think this moves forward in time a little bit, but it's still very much a period piece. Dan Trachtenberg is an awesome director, and Prey was a really cool movie, so I'll watch as many of those as he wants to make. The Running Man by Edgar Wright, also on the 7th. There has been an adaptation of this Stephen King book before with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was not a faithful adaptation. I think this one will probably be a little more true to the actual story and what Stephen King was trying to convey with it. And also Edgar Wright, he's definitely made enough movies where even if I don't love every single one of them, I'll always be there to check them out right when they open. The next one is Begonia by Yorgos Lanthimos, and this reunites him with Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, who he's been working with a lot lately, and I mean, I think the collaboration between Yorgos and Emma is one of the most exciting things happening in film right now, and I just love how prolific Yorgos is being. So yeah, I'm totally down for this too. Great. And then Zootopia 2 on the 26th, which this is another one where I'm gonna wait and see how I feel. I did enjoy the first Zootopia. I thought it was kind of interesting how they used this really kind of cute universe to talk about these very kind of heavy subjects, But we'll see. It might be fun. And then December, there's only one movie I'm excited about right now, which is Marty Supreme by Josh Safdie. Yeah, the Safdie brothers, like the Coen brothers, have broken up. Hopefully, temporarily. I have heard the Coens are actually working on a joint project that's going to come out at some point. But yeah, this is Josh's contribution. You're going to hear about Benny's later. But I wrote the cast down here so I wouldn't forget because it's weird. But I still remember when I saw the cast list for Uncut Gems, and I was like, okay, so it's Adam Sandler, Kevin Garnett, Eric Bogosian, Idina Menzel, and The Weeknd. Like, what the fuck is this? And it worked perfectly. So this time he's got Timothy Chalamet, Tyler the Creator, Penn Jillette from Penn and Teller, Abel Ferrara, who's mostly known as a director, and Fran Drescher from The Nanny. So that's pretty nuts. And that's coming out on Christmas, as all Safdie Brothers related films should. All right, now next up, we have the stuff that will happen. It just doesn't have a concrete release date yet. We got Death of a Unicorn, a new A24 film. There's a trailer out for this. I think it looks fun. But yeah, as far as I know, they haven't announced a concrete release date yet. And then we got Poohniverse Monsters Assemble, where it's like all the Pooh characters are coming together with Pinocchio, Sleeping Beauty, Bambi, the Mad Hatter, Peter Pan, and Tinkerbell to form like a kind of Avengers unit of public domain characters. And it's a fun concept. I like the concept. I want to be on board for these movies, but just the Pooh movies, the Pooh Blood and Honey films have just looked really too self-serious for me. It's not the direction I would take the franchise. Like, it's an inherently goofy concept. And the movies can be scary, but they should have some goofiness to them. you can't ignore that aspect of it. It's a goofy idea. So it's like you gotta embrace that aspect of it. So hopefully they will. I mean, there's at least like Pinocchio, Bambi, and Peter Pan movies coming out next year that are like, horror takes on those characters. So I'm keeping an eye on the franchise, because if they embrace the fun, I think it could be really enjoyable, but they haven't yet. Then we got The Shrouds by David Cronenberg, which looks like a really interesting film. It played at a bunch of film festivals this year, and I was really excited to see it, and it just didn't come out. But it is slated to come out in wider release next year, so hopefully it will. And then we have Wake Up Dead Man, which is the third film in the Knives Out series, Knives Out, Glass Onion, Wake Up Dead Man. I absolutely love those movies, so very excited for another one. And then we've got The Exorcist Deceiver, which you probably know that the recent Exorcist reboot by David Gordon Green um, didn't go very well. So now they're pivoting. They gave the series to Mike Flanagan. Who's very capable, I think, of delivering something really cool. And I'm really looking forward to seeing his take on it. So we might potentially be getting 2 Mike Flanagan movies next year. Of course, Life of Chuck kind of technically came out this year, but it was just, only in festivals. So, you know what I'm saying. The Old Guard 2. This is a sequel to a Netflix action movie with Charlize Theron that I thought was a pretty good time. So, I'll watch this one too. Why not? It'll probably just be on streaming. We got Toto, which, Wicked is really successful now. So we're going to get all kinds of, Wizard of Oz kind of reboot stuff, probably, extended universe, blah, blah, blah. But, Toto is the best character in that movie, Dorothy's little dog friend. So, if he's the title character, they better focus on Toto and really get into Toto's backstory and, to take us inside Toto's mind. That's what I want. So if that movie is legit focused on Toto, I will watch it. Warfare is the new film co-directed by Alex Garland and a guy who's never directed a movie before, but I think he was the military consultant on Civil War. And apparently the two of them were talking while they were making this movie, and they came up with this concept for a totally different film. So I'm very excited to check that out. There is a trailer for it, and I think it's going to be great. And then finally, we have a documentary about George A. Romero's Resident Evil movie, which did not come to fruition. And it's always interesting to watch these documentaries about films that never ended up coming together, but had this potential to them, like Jodorowsky's Dune, or that movie about the death of the Nick Cage Superman movie. So I'm curious to give that a watch. Stuff that might happen. They're talking about doing another Star Trek sequel, the fourth one in that series with Star Trek Into Darkness, Star Trek Beyond, with all of those actors coming back. I would watch that. Quiet Place Part 3 is being developed. This would be the fourth film because there was a spin-off film this year. Damien Chazelle is doing his follow-up to Babylon, developing it at Paramount, and it might come out next year. And I'm very curious to see what he's going to do next, because he kind of blew up his career with Babylon. So where is he going to go from here? I'm curious. And then we got a reboot of Silent Night, Deadly Night, which it's time, feels like a good time to do that. And then an Untitled, which I misspelled, an Untitled Bee Gees movie. So this is like a Bee Gees biopic directed by the guy who made Once. So that sounds, like a thing. All right. And how long have I been talking? I just want to check the tape. All right, you know what? It's like another 15 minutes. I'm going to stop it here. We're going to come back for the next part, because the next part Hopefully, it won't take that long. I'm gonna keep it moving, but it might take much longer than I've anticipated. So, back in a sec, and I'm back. All right, and we are moving on to the last phase of this presentation. Now, this last phase is the films by, let's say, notable directors that might or might not be coming out next year. This is basically a list of films that I know are in some stage of development by directors I'm interested in that might come out next year. They might come out the year after. They might come out 10 years from now. I know there was a new movie by David Robert Mitchell, the guy who did It Follows, which was like a suburban satire with dinosaurs in it. And that was one of my most anticipated movies of next year. That got moved to 2026. So, that same fate might befall any or none of these films. So we will see. Um, but let's get into it with Ari Aster. His next film is Eddington. It is a contemporary Western black comedy. Anytime there are quotes on here, that's just from Wikipedia because I'm good at research. The cast in this includes Joaquin Phoenix, who obviously Ari Aster just worked on with for Beau is Afraid. I'm so eloquent. Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, Austin Butler. A24 movie. It was originally going to be his debut before he pivoted to Hereditary. Sounds interesting. Then we got a new one by Wes Anderson, The Phoenician Scam, which is Scheme, The Phoenician Scheme. Oh my god, just off the roof, off the roof. My eloquence is it's at an all time high. I feel the power surging through me. No, it's an espionage comedy drama thriller, and Wes Anderson's casts are always insane. And this one right now has Benicio del Toro, Michael Cera, Bill Murray, Riz Ahmed, Tom Hanks, which I wrote as Tom Thanks, which. Okay. Benedict Cumberbatch, Scarlett Johansson, Willem Dafoe, Bryan Cranston. Many of those people he just worked with on his latest film, Asteroid City, which I thought was fantastic. And this is co-written with Roman Coppola. They also co-wrote films of his like The Darjeeling Limited and Moonrise Kingdom. So that sounds good. Now we got a new one by Park Chan-wook, who is the guy who brought us Old Boy and Decision to Leave a couple years ago, which I thought was a really cool neo-noir. This looks like another film in that vein. It is a thriller called No Other Choice, which is based upon the novel The Axe by Donald E. Westlake, and it was previously adapted by Costa Gavras in 2005, which I had no idea Costa Gavras was even making movies in 2005. So that's interesting. We got Highest to Lowest by Spike Lee. Some of these images are not high quality. But this is a remake of High and Low, a Akira Kurosawa film that I haven't seen yet. I'll try to watch it before I watch this, which is based on King's Ransom by Ed McBain, very loosely, I've heard. The cast includes Denzel Washington, Jeffrey Wright, Ice Spice, and ASAP Rocky. And it's an Apple Plus film, but it is going to get a theatrical run from A24. Every time A24 is involved in one of these movies, I'm going to mention it because I am an A24 fanboy. We got a new one by Lynn Ramsey, Die My Love, her follow-up to the excellent You Are Never Really Here, which is a dark comedy horror film about a woman who has mental health issues as her marriage breaks up, starring Jennifer Lawrence, Robert Pattinson, Lakeith Stanfield, Sissy Spacek, and Nick Nolte. And apparently she's working on original songs for this with a songwriting man. So I guess it's maybe a musical. I don't know. Lynn Ramsey says that there might be songs in it, so maybe she's still trying to figure out if it's going to be a musical. I don't know. I'm confused. Now we got the film by the other Safdie brother, Benny, which is a film called The Smashing Machine, which is a biographical sports drama based on the life of Mark Kerr, a wrestler and mixed martial artist, and he's going to be played by The Rock, which is interesting because this will be the first time in a very long time where The Rock has had a role where he really has to act. He usually is just coasting kind of on his rock persona. But he used to be like a legit actor and stuff, like Southland Tales, and I even remember really enjoying his performance in Pain and Gain, which was kind of a dumb movie, but I liked it. So I'm curious to see him take on like kind of a more prestige role at this point. And yeah, there was previously a documentary called, of the same guy with the same name, HBO documentary, and this is another A24 movie. So cool beans. New movie by Jim Jarmusch, Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. It's a comedy drama anthology film, which seeing that anthology film there, kind of reminds me of Coffee and Cigarettes, which is made up of all these little short films strung together. So it might be like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, the cast includes Kate Blanchett, Vicky Krieps from oh god, oh god, why is my brain dead? The Paul Thomas Anderson movie where he's designing dresses. Adam Driver, Tom Waits, and Charlotte Rampling. It's too hot in this room. I always have to have this fan going because I can't think with the heat. And it's the middle of winter and it's so hot in this room. I think it's because I keep the door closed, and it's just the heat, like from the heating system, just like builds in here, and I can't think, and I don't want to turn on the fan because I think it makes too much noise. But I don't know. I'm conflicted. Um, the Adam Driver, Tom Waits, Charlotte Rampling. Always nice to see Jarmusch working with Tom Waits. They are great collaborators. And Jarmusch has said that the film is very subtle, very quiet, funny inside. He has implied that it might not have a score, might not have any music at all, which is interesting. Richard Linklater, Nouvelle Vague, which is a film about the making of Breathless by Jean-Luc Godard. I'm not really a Godard fan, but I am a Richard Linklater fan. Other than Godard, there will be actors portraying other notable real people like Gene Seberg. This will be the second film where somebody plays Gene Seberg, because oh my god, this is really bad. Kristen Stewart did a biopic about her too called Seberg. Anyway, Gene Seberg will be in it. Jean-Paul Belmondo will be in it. Somebody will be playing Francois Truffaut. The film is going to be entirely in French, and it's said to be in black and white with a 4.3 aspect ratio. So that's interesting. And then we have Richard Linklater again. 2 movies next year, maybe. This one is Blue Moon. This is the one I'm more excited for. This is a biographical musical drama taking place on the opening night of the musical Oklahoma. Rodgers and Hammerstein, the guys who wrote Oklahoma, are going to be played by Bobby Cannavale and Andrew Scott, and Ethan Hawke is going to be playing Rodgers' old writing partner, Lorenz Hart. And I actually think, based on what I've read, that Hart is actually going to kind of be the main character. This is one of the few films Linklater's directed that he didn't also write, and it is rumored to be coming out mid-year, maybe in May. All right, we got a new adaptation of Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro, which is a film he's been talking about wanting to make for a million years. But after the success of his excellent adaptation of Pinocchio, there were like 3 Pinocchio movies that came out this year. In the 2022 or whatever it was. He directed the good one. He didn't do the Pauly Shore one. He did the other one. And it was great. And so now Netflix is picking up this project and letting him finally fulfill his Frankenstein dreams. Oscar Isaac is playing Victor Frankenstein. Jacob Elordi is playing the monster. Mia Goth and Christoph Waltz are also in it. There is a chance, I think, that Mia Goth might be playing the Bride of Frankenstein, because Del Toro did say that he wants to make an adaptation that's closer to the source material, and that he wants to work in elements from Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. So that would be kind of cool if we not only get a Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein movie in the same year, but we get 2 depictions of the Bride of Frankenstein in the same year. It'd be fun to compare. Yeah. That's enough of that. All right, we got Terrence Malick, The Way of the Wind. And yes, this does appear to be a mule wearing a hat. This is apparently a production still. Anyway, this is an epic biblical drama starring Jesus and Satan and the saints. And Mark Rylance says he's playing 4 different versions of Satan in one movie. The cast also includes Giza Rohrig as Jesus. I've never seen him, but he was in a really acclaimed movie called Son of Saul a few years ago, as well as Ben Kingsley, Joseph Fiennes, John Rhys Davies, Malick has been editing this movie since 2019. So this is the longest editing process he's ever had for a film, which is saying a lot for Terrence Malick. But yeah, it is supposedly finally coming out at the Cannes Film Festival. So we will see. Next up, we got Caught Stealing, the new film by Darren Aronofsky. And I had to include this photo because, yet, this is how Matt Smith is going to look in this movie. This is a crime thriller based on a novel by Charlie Houston. Like The Whale and Requiem for a Dream, this adaptation is written by the original author, by the novelist. The film is about a retired baseball player who finds himself immersed in criminality in 1990s New York City. The cast includes Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, Regina King, Matt Smith, who once again is going to look like this, Liev Schreiber, Bad Bunny, Vincent D'Onofrio, Carol Kane, and Action Bronson. And apparently Carol Kane's character will speak only Yiddish. Then we got the new film by Ethan Coen, Honey Don't. That's a bad photo. But this is a detective comedy film about a private investigator played by Margaret Qualley, a cult leader played by Chris Evans, and a mystery woman played by Aubrey Plaza, which sounds like the part she was born to play. And it also includes Charlie Day and Billy Eichner. It is the second in Ethan's lesbian B-movies trilogy that began this year with Drive Away Dolls, which was a pretty fun movie. And like this film, like Drive Away Dolls, Ethan co-wrote Honey Don't with Trisha Cook, who is his wife, and also a really good editor. And the third film in the trilogy is allegedly going to be called Go Beavers. So look forward to that, maybe in 2026. I don't know. Then we got a new film by David Michôd, Wizards. David Michôd is a guy who usually makes kind of very serious, very intense movies. But this is a stoner comedy starring Pete Davidson and Franz Rogowski as brothers who stumble across some stolen loot. And the cast also includes Naomi Scott, Sean Harris, Orlando Bloom. The story was co-written by Michôd and Joel Edgerton, who doesn't appear in the film. And they've written several movies together, like The Rover, which Joel Edgerton was not in, and The King, which he was in. And this is another one that's coming out with being a 24 distribution. So that's nice. Luca Guadagnino, however you pronounce his name, After the Hunt. He's being super prolific these days. He had 2 movies come out last year, Challengers and Queer. I wasn't a huge fan of either one of those movies, but Bones and All was really good. And this is a thriller about a college professor who has a secret past that she must reconcile with. One of her colleagues is faced with a serious accusation. So the cast includes Julia Roberts, Ayo Edebiri from The Bear, Andrew Garfield, Michael Stuhlbarg, who he worked with in Call Me by Your Name, who was kind of like the highlight of that movie, and Chloe Sevigny. And as with Bones and All, Challengers, and Queer, the score is going to be by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who always do a great job. We got a new film by Travis Knight, Wildwood. Travis Knight previously worked with Leica Animation on Kubo and the Two Strings before he kind of broke with them and went and did Bumblebee, which I thought was a fun movie. And now he's back with Leica directing this stop-motion animated dark fantasy adventure horror film based on the book by Colin Meloy from The Decemberists. And the voice cast includes Jacob Tremblay, Carey Mulligan, Mahershala Ali, Awkwafina, Angela Bassett, Jake Johnson, Charlie Day, which I misspelled, Jermaine Clement, Tom Waits, Tantu Cardinal, and Richard E. Grant. Good cast. New film by one of my favorite screenwriters, Shane Black, Play Dirty. Like No Other Choice, that Park Chan-wook film we talked about, Play Dirty, is also based on a novel by Donald E. Westlake, with Mark Wahlberg playing Westlake's probably most well-known character, Parker. This book, The Hunter, which is the first Parker novel, has been previously adapted as Point Blank with Lee Marvin and Payback with Mel Gibson. I think in both of those movies the character wasn't called Parker because I think Donald E. Westlake had a rule when he was alive that adaptations of the book couldn't use the Parker name for whatever reason. But, since he's passed away, things have changed, and there was a Parker movie also with Jason Statham a few years ago. Robert Downey Jr. was originally gonna play Parker, which would have reunited them 20 years after Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which would have been really cool, but didn't happen. He is still producing it though, and the cast also includes Lakeith Stanfield, Dermot Mulrooney, Tony Shalhoub, Keegan Michael Key, Nat Wolff, and Thomas Jane. And this is like one of 3 films on this list that have Lakeith Stanfield in it. So he's about to have a good year, maybe. We got a new one by Scott Cooper, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Scott Cooper is a weird director for me because I always go into his movies excited and always kind of leave disappointed. Like, his movies look really cool conceptually, but then when I actually see them, I feel kind of let down. But I'm hoping that's not the case here, because this is about the creation of one of my all-time favorite albums, Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska. Springsteen is going to be played by Jeremy Allen White, which seems like good casting. This is the 2 of them hugging it out. And the cast also includes Jeremy Strong, Paul Walter Hauser, David Krumholtz, and Mark Maron. We got a new one by S. Craig Zahler, who previously gave us Brawl in Cell Block 99, Dragged Across Concrete, Bone Tomahawk. This is a film about 2 guys played by Vince Vaughn and Adrian Brody who are readjusting to civilian life after they come back from World War II. This is Vince's 3rd collaboration with Zahler after Brawl in Cell Block 99, which really kind of redefined Vince Vaughn and kind of what he was capable of in the eyes of a lot of people, including me, and also Dragged Across Concrete. And a producer calls it an action-packed tale of searing conflict between the Irish, American, and Italian mafias in New York. So that sounds fun. Then we got Hamnet. This is a work of historical fiction about Shakespeare and his wife dealing with the death of their young son, Hamnet. Shakespeare is being played by Paul Mescal. Jesse Buckley is playing his wife, Agnes. But I thought her name was Anne. Anne Hathaway, right? So I don't know why they're calling her Agnes. Maybe there's a historical reason for that. Joe Alwyn and Emily Watson are also in it. The film is produced by both Sam Mendes and Steven Spielberg, which I thought was interesting. And Hamnet is just a weird name. Like, it's so close to being Hamlet, but it's not Hamlet. And this is also directed by Chloe Zhao. I forgot to mention, who did she recently won Best Picture and Best Director for that movie she did that was really good. I cannot think. Frances McDormand, Chloe Zhao. Yeah, freaking Nomadland. What is wrong with my brain? It's hot. It's hot. All right. Mother Mary by David Lowery. David Lowery is a filmmaker who I used to not really be into, but recently he's done a couple really cool movies with Old Man and the Gun and The Green Knight, so I'm curious to see what he does next. This is an epic melodrama about a relationship between a musician and a fashion designer. Cast includes Anne Hathaway, Hunter Schafer, and FKA Twigs. The movie is going to include original songs by Jack Antonoff and Charlie XCX. I think they're both writing individual songs. I don't think they're writing together. And this is another film being distributed by A24. So that's cool. New Paul Greengrass movie about Matthew McConaughey driving a bus through a wildfire. It's based on a true story. America Ferrera is also in it. I'm not that excited about it. But Paul Greengrass did Captain Phillips, which was a really good movie. So you can keep an eye on it. Then we got the adaptation of Clara and the Sun by Taika Waititi, a dystopian sci-fi film based on Kazuo Ishiguro's very acclaimed novel that I haven't read yet for some reason, about a robot named Clara who's going to be played by Jenna Ortega, who exists to ease the loneliness of those she lives with, I guess. And the cast also includes Amy Adams, Natasha Lyonne, and Steve Buscemi. And Taika didn't write it, which I think he's written all of the films he's directed previously, so that's interesting. This was supposed to come out this year, but I think it got delayed for whatever reason. So, looking forward to seeing it. We got a new film by Nicholas Winding Refn, The Avenging Silence. This is a movie about a mute spy who's looking for 4 clues to find a Yakuza mob boss, which sounds cool, but then the synopsis at IMDb says the 4 clues symbolize conquest, war, famine, and death, and they call the film an existential journey, which I'm starting to get less excited. but it's written by the team behind all of the Daniel Craig Bond films, so I'm back on board. And then Nicholas Winding Refn called it a combination of Ian Fleming and William S. Burroughs. So I'm intrigued and concerned. We got a new film by Julian Schnabel, who has a pretty good filmography, who made Basquiat, which I absolutely love. Also did Diving Bell and the Butterfly and At Eternity's Gate. And now he's making a movie about Dante Alighieri, the guy who wrote The Divine Comedy. And Oscar Isaac is playing two roles. He's playing Dante and a guy in modern times who's writing about Dante. It's kind of like, Julie and Julia, that movie with Amy Adams and Meryl Streep. Anyway, the cast has got Jason Momoa, Gerard Butler, Gal Gadot, John Malkovich, Al Pacino, Benjamin Clementine, who's a really cool songwriter who's also doing the score for the film, and Martin Scorsese in an acting role. Johnny Depp acquired the rights to this back in 2008. Julian Schnabel was attached way back in 2011, and it took 13 years to go into production, but it is happening. I also just wanted to include this fan-made poster for the movie because this is absolutely hilarious. Like this is not. I'm telling you right now, we know nothing about this film. This is not indicative of the kind of film we are about to get. So. Next up, we got Duncan Jones, Rogue Trooper. It's an animated sci-fi film based on a comic strip I am unfamiliar with, but apparently it's from this anthology comic called 2000 AD, which is also where Judge Dredd got started, and Grant Morrison wrote an adaptation of Rogue Trooper way back when, but then Alex Garland's Dredd film didn't do well at the box office, so that version of Rogue Trooper was canceled. But now it's back on. It's going to be an animated film. It's going to have Haley Atwell, Sean Bean, Matt Berry, Jermaine Clement doing voices, among many others. New Noah Baumbach film, his next film for Netflix, after Meyerowitz Stories, Marriage Story, and White Noise. It's a coming-of-age comedy drama. Besides that, we know nothing about the plot, but we do know a lot about the cast, which currently includes George Clooney, Adam Sandler, Laura Dern, Billy Crudup, Riley Keough, Jim Broadbent, Isla Fisher, Greta Gerwig, Patrick Wilson, and Emily Mortimer, who interestingly also co-wrote the screenplay. It's her first film credit as a writer, though she has written some TV. And Jay Kelly is the name of R. Kelly's son, which is probably just a coincidence. And I just love this photo. It's so weird for me, for some reason, seeing Adam Sandler and George Clooney standing next to each other. I don't know. It's interesting. New film by Boots Riley. I Love Boosters. This is going to be Boots' second film after Sorry to Bother You, which was a really fun movie. And he's, previous to him becoming a filmmaker, he was mostly known as the lead vocalist of The Coop. But this is an adventure sci-fi comedy about a group of shoplifters who take aim at a cutthroat fashion maven. And the cast includes Keke Palmer, Demi Moore, Lakeith Stanfield again, and Will Poulter. And Animal Farm by Andy Serkis. He's been working on this movie for a million years. Originally, Rupert Wyatt from Rise of the Planet of the Apes was going to direct this, and Serkis was going to co-write it with him, but then Serkis took over the production in 2012, and now it's 2025, and the movie is allegedly finally coming out. It is an animated adaptation of the novella by George Orwell, and we know basically nothing about it, even though Andy Serkis has already completed a full year of production on it. The new Alejandro G. Inarritu film, Judy, which follows the most powerful man in the world who tries to prove he is humanity's savior before the disaster he's unleashed destroys everything. Tom Cruise is playing the most powerful man in the world, which seems like good casting. The cast also includes Sandra Hüller, John Goodman, Michael Stuhlbarg again, Jesse Plemons and Riz Ahmed. Emmanuel Lubezki is back as a cinematographer. He obviously did Birdman and The Revenant with Inarritu, so they got a great collaboration going. And Inarritu co-wrote the film with most of the writing team from Birdman, so that's a good sign. Boots Riley again. What's going on? It's broken. It broke. Guy Ritchie has some Guy Ritchie stuff. I think he's making 2 movies next year. I don't really care, but he's made a couple movies I like, so I'm gonna keep an eye on it. But I'm probably not gonna see them, but they exist. And then Bill Condon for Kiss of the Spider Woman, which I left the freaking picture of Guy Ritchie on there. I'm good. I'm a professional. But, did you know that Kiss of the Spider Woman got turned into a Broadway musical, and now Bill Condon is making a film of the musical version starring Jennifer Lopez? I mean, I'm probably not going to see this, but Bill Condon, he made Gods and Monsters, which is one of my favorite movies, so I always have to keep an eye on his projects, even if I haven't liked any of his others nearly as much. I haven't even seen the original adaptation of Kiss of the Spider Woman, the one with William Hurt, because it was inexplicably really hard to find for years, but now I guess it's streaming on Max, and it finally got released on Blu-ray. I didn't know that. I should watch it. But did you know that Bill Condon was originally going to direct an adaptation of Bride of Frankenstein with Angelina Jolie, but it got canceled because it was part of that dark universe thing with the Mummy, and nobody liked the Mummy, so the whole universe just fell apart? I was actually excited for Condon's adaptation of Bride just because he directed Gods and Monsters, which is about James Whale, the director of Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, the '30s ones. So it would have been a fun full circle moment, and it would have been cool to see him put a stamp on the work of a director who clearly has a lot of respect for, which might have made him really bring his A game and make his best movie in years. But that's all speculation now because it's not happening. I think that whole dark universe concept could have been really fun in a goofy sort of way. Like, it's obviously not an ideal way to adapt the monsters, but I would be lying if I said I didn't want to see an Avengers-style team of Universal monsters teaming up to fight other monsters, like the way Lee Winnell did the Invisible Man. That would have been a perfect jumping-off point for the dark universe. I mean, she even had a super suit. I mean, I wasn't sad about the concept falling apart until I saw that movie, which is funny because that was the first movie made in the wake of the dark universe's dissolution. I wonder if Lee did that on purpose to like stick it in their craw. I mean, probably not, but it was so perfect. Speaking of Lee Winnell, when the fuck are we going to get a sequel to Upgrade? That concept is just calling out for a franchise. I mean, we should just alternate John Wick and Upgrade movies forever until the end of time. Maybe John Wick could fight Upgrade.